Hey, welcome to the Virtually Speaking podcast. My name is Pete Flecha, and joining me, I wouldn't say as always, because that would be John, but joining me today is my good friend, Mr. Jad El-Zein. Jad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Pete. Happy to be here as always.
Yeah, man. So Jad, for those that are not familiar, we've obviously had Jad on several times, and obviously Jad is pretty well known within the VMware community. But Jad, thanks for stepping in. Hopefully this will be a more recurring thing. I know that you focus heavily on Kubernetes and just in general, just containers in that space. And so we're trying to do a lot more this year with that. And, I'm glad that, after talking to you, you've agreed to actually join us on any episodes in any way related to that. So thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yeah. So you may know that we have been doing on Virtually Speaking a series on the advanced services, and we're just pounding through all the various ones. And if you're just now seeing this for the first time, if this is the first episode, kind of go back on YouTube or on vspeakingpodcast.com, and then you'll see the whole playlist, all the different episodes that we've been covering. There's also an overview episode that essentially gives just a very small taste of the various advanced services. But this is one that we've talked about on Virtually Speaking before. It's certainly not a new service, but there have been some changes, and we definitely want to cover it in this advanced services series. It's Data Services Manager, and joining us to have this conversation is the product manager for Data Services Manager and no stranger to the show, Mr. Michael Gandy. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be back.
I see you've got your shirt on. Let's get a closer look at that thing. Let's see. There it is. Data Services Manager. I like it. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So Michael, before we get too into DSM and sort of like what it is and why people should care, and then maybe dive a little deeper and see what specifically is going on with DSM lately, maybe you can just set the stage. Like, what is your role inside of Broadcom?
Yeah. So I've been working at VMware for 12 plus years. I hold many different roles within the company. And for the past, actually, I've been into the data space for 5 years in different projects. But 3 years ago, I joined the Data Services Manager team as PMM first and now as a PM to drive basically the strategy on how we bring more value to our customer around the data. And databases are the core, the foundation on how our customers are using data. So I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. What's funny about that is, this is a little inside baseball, but anybody who's in this space in general, it's like that knows what a product manager is and knows what product marketing is. It's like anybody who's been in product marketing is constantly having to work with and try as much as they can to influence product management. It's just funny that you went from product marketing and for the same product and became the product manager. That's a unique but pretty exciting transition, I would say.
So one way to influence is to just take the job.
Yeah.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to be more influential on this product. I'll just be the product manager. There you go. Very good.
There you go.
It shows your passion for the product. Yeah, very cool stuff. But yeah, as I mentioned, we and many others have talked about DSM, Data Services Manager. So for many, I'm sure this is not going to be, an introduction, but I'm sure for some it might be. So maybe we can just start, from the highest level, sort of like, what is DSM and sort of what problem does it solve for customers?
Yeah, of course. And we'll go from very high and we'll do a demo. So I think we'll cover every layers in this episode. But fundamentally, right? And you've got some previous episode on VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation. We are delivering a private cloud, and you show the picture before. Private cloud, you've got a foundational stack which we call VCF, right? And you've got a set of advanced service, and every customer's needs different services on their private cloud. And the most obvious one, I will say, is around database, right? Database services. And why is this the case? It's very simple. If you look at the telemetry, if you look at, talking to customer every day, databases are 25 to 30% or even more, depending on the industry, of their workload in their cloud, right? And obviously in their private cloud, because most enterprise want their data to be close to the applications. They want the data locality, sovereignty, and so on, right? So database is like one key point. So this was the statement, an obvious statement, but when we started DSM, basically to deliver this DBaaS experience, right, for private cloud. So now you ask, so this is very high level, how was the problem statement, right, and the goal. Now, what is the problem that we are solving? This was a question. When you look at on-prem or private cloud deployment, right, database is not a new thing. Customers they needed to deploy and manage database on-prem. And what you noticed is, for commercial database, they pay the licenses, they pay the support, and with that, they come a lot of tools, right? And this has been for 20 years something that has been running on vSphere, right? But it had a bit of a shift for the past 10 years, right? Like you mentioned Kubernetes, modern apps, but at the same time, this modern application needed some, modern database and mostly open source database. Great. However, if you look, for job listing, you know that you can find an Oracle database, DBaaS, right? But you will not find like a Postgres or MySQL or Mongo DBaaS or maybe, right? Or they will do multiple ones. So the problem that our customers are facing is very simple. Who is managing all these data services?
Yeah.
And, who is managing all these data services on-prem in my private cloud, right? And this is really the problem we are solving. We are giving them the tools and the integration, and we will talk more, right? This is why we'll go layer by layer, but what you expect is this cloud experience, so integration with the other component, out of the box experience, right? But as well, you expect the tool, the mechanism, so DSM, right, to take care of all not only the deployment. Deployment is easy, right? You can download the database, you can deploy it. Very simple. What is difficult is day one, day two, day N operation, where maybe you can do it for one databases, but when you are doing it for 3, 5, 10, it starts to be very complicated.
Yeah. So devil's advocate here, obviously, the things that you're saying are the problem that we're solving. It seems like all of those things are already in some of those higher end database programs like SQL and stuff like that. So why are we solving a problem that's already solved?
This is a good question. So first of all, it is solved, yes and no. So if we go from Oracle standpoint, it is solved, customer got it, and they've got the tools. But there's a cost question, right? So this is one. The second is for SQL Server, actually, we've got today SQL Server as a tech preview, right? In DSM, a lot of acronym, but DSM Data Services Manager. So, in DSM, because we see customers that are asking for more automation on-prem, right? They don't want to go to the public cloud for whatever reason. The reality is they want some database running on-prem in their private cloud, and they're asking for automation, right? Now you mentioned, yes, so these are two, but what about Postgres? What about MySQL? What about Redis, but Redis becoming Valkey? What about Mongo? What about Kafka? Right? It has a long tail of modern databases that are used for any type of application, and they want this consistency. They want this black box experience that just give me a database. And by the way, to be very, in this show, we are very transparent, right? This is the expectation from the end user.
Yeah.
When the end user is asking for a database, they don't say, oh, wait, I need to do a ticket. I need to request for a Postgres database to a team somewhere. I don't care where it's running. I don't care how it is running. I don't care who is maintaining it. So what the end user wants, right, the DevOps, what they want give me a database with an SLA. Right? At the end of the day, this is what they want. And believe it or not, it's actually pretty difficult to do it on-prem. And we are the best suited to do that because, as I mentioned, it's not only to do the automation, it's as well to interact with the different components. And we can enter in more details, but what does it mean? It means if you know how your compute is running, if you are using, what is your storage, if you are using vSAN, you don't have to use vSAN. But if you are using vSAN, we can give you more, an optimized data path. If you are using NSX for your network, we can enable and help you with like your network isolation. There's a lot of stuff that we can do, right? If you are using VCF observation monitoring, you can now look at your infrastructure and your database. So when you think of DSM, you think of really this, delivering this DBaaS experience for VCF, right? And for me, there's these two big components. There's always to close on your question, like taking care of the database themselves, right? And just this is a lot of work. Anyone that is doing, actually, I talked to a customer yesterday and said, yeah, we deployed all these things ourselves, but we don't want to maintain it.
Yeah.
So it's great. I was like, yes, this is why we're here. This is one layer. The second layer is like this integration with the VCF component, and we'll see in the demo, to deliver a cloud experience. Because at the end of the day, this is what the end user served by IT organization want to get, because this is the expectation that they want, right?
Hey, Michael, one question that I think is important to cover, especially seeing where VCF has been and where it's going as a platform, essentially. We want to look at DSM more than just a database tool, right? It's grown way beyond just being a database tool, even just database automation. I mean, it's a thing it does, but it's not what it is, right? And DSM in turn has become like a critical piece of this platform that we call VCF, but really it's about a platform that in my talks we talk about where it fits in the like the IDP, for example, as part of a platform engineering tool set. But how do you see DSM's role, or how has DSM kind of evolved to fit that role and be this data layer in a platform instead of just a database tool?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it evolved even in the product. So when you looked at how DSM started, it was a standalone tool, right? As you said, to take care of my databases, right? But what we realized, and it's still there, right? DSM just required to run on vSphere. So, some customers are running DSM because it's a database tool and it helps to what I mentioned, right, with the day-to-day end operation on their database. And they're very happy with that. However, but it's a journey, right? This is step one. Where customer want to go, to your point, it is VCF as a platform for private cloud, right? Mm-hmm. And this means a bit more. They want to have this experience around, creating an application on VCF. And they need different tools, right? And you will see in the demo how it is integrated, but you might need to run a Kubernetes cluster or some VM. You need a load balancer. It's not but you need a database at some point, and they don't want to go to another tool, or they don't want to open a ticket. So I totally agree with you. To deliver a platform, you need to be integrated with the other component of this platform. And an example of that is, like you ask how we evolve as a product, is before we had a dedicated REST API to call for DSM, but now we can do everything with kubectl, which is aligned to how developer will use any other component of their application. So for them, for the end user, they are starting to get this cloud experience. This is for me what it means, right? And this is delivered by a platform, which means that everything needs to be integrated together. This is not, it's an expectation, and this is what they want, right? And this is how the product needs to be fit. And I hope when we'll go through the very quick demo, it will be very clear to the audience how we are doing that. But very good question.
Yeah, for sure. Quick question: was this a fling before we actually made it a product? I know many products do that route. Was this a fling as well?
No. Actually, I was responsible of Fling at the office of the CTO. So no, it was not. But it has a long history of like different component bringing. So we we will talk. Maybe it's a good segue or a bit later, but actually, VMware had a lot of different ways to manage database. So when you said, what's the problem with customer? We as a company had this issue with managing databases. And when we'll talk about the Broadcom use case, I can give more details. But
I do want to talk about that. You keep sharing all these leads. You keep telling people you're really good at, like, if this was one of those things like stay because we're going to do a demo and stay because we're going to talk about this. You're really good at that's good. I like that. You keep sharing the whole agenda. No, I love that. But before we get there, I do want to talk a little bit about how it fits into the broader platform discussion of VCF. I know it is an advanced service, but how is this being utilized inside VCF?
Yeah. I mean, because I see the slide here. This is a great slide actually to answer your question, your first question to Jad's question, right? When you think of DSM, it's really like to be part of this platform or to deliver this use case, right? Database as service use case for private cloud. You really need to nail down two components that are, I usually put them on two axes, from a framework as a product manager, but they go end to end, right? And the end to end is like one, the top part. You need to nail down on how to do the operation of databases. Right? This is like the plumbing. This is what is hard. This is what, you cannot go to a production deployment if you don't do the top layers, right? You need to make sure that we take care of the lifecycle management end to end of the database themselves, right? And when we prep, it's like another question. It's not just the database, it's like the underlying OS. Basically, what we need to do is to take care of everything that will deliver a database to the end user. And we need to give the tools for the IT organization that they shouldn't care about it, right? Mm-hmm. We are taking care. When I say we, is we, VMware, are on the hook for this. And actually on this, as you mentioned, DSM is an advanced service, and we provide end-to-end support, from the infrastructure of DSM up to the database support for Postgres and MySQL, right? They are open source database, but when you are running this in production, you want someone to do the end-to-end support. So when I say we are on the hook, it's like you call us if you've got any problem with Postgres and MySQL. So I mentioned SQL Server is in tech preview today, but the customer will bring their own license, right? There's license from Microsoft, right? So we are partnering closely with them for that. So this is the top layer. This is what you expect, right? And I mentioned the out of the box, like capabilities. Okay, this works on its own, but this doesn't deliver a DBaaS. So this is the bottom part, right? What it means when I say seamless integration with VCF. Well, what it means that it should integrate with every other component, because when customers are purchasing, deploying, and managing a private cloud, they don't want to have to manage the plumbing between the different components.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They want to make sure that everything is taken care for them. So I think this is a good slide to summarize a bit what it means very practically to have these two components.
Yeah, seamless integration is a term that is something in previous years or previous generations of VMware IT administrators probably would love to have heard. I can certainly remember in my experience of various products, and I won't slam any of them, but it's like, oh, we got this really cool feature that's out. Oh, wait, what version of vSphere are you using? Oh, you can't use that yet. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, but you that doesn't go with it. There's so much compatibility matrix was like anything you wanted to do, you needed to verify if it actually works. So I do, we can so simply say seamless integration now, but it's actually, it's a little understated, I think.
Yes. And we can always do better, but I think this is what we have been proven from the past couple of years now with, like, again, delivering, to use Jad's word, right? This platform that works together. And when customers are looking at this platform, they say, yeah, this is cloud. This is what I want. This is what I want to operate as an IT, organization, right? And this is what I want to deliver to my end user. And actually, it's interesting you mentioned this, because actually, I started as an intern a long time ago at VMware, and this was my first project to look at all the different products and how they were interacting. It was difficult for customers because it had like very different ways of doing so many different things, a lot of flexibility, but at the cost of like a customer experience, right?
So, Michael, speaking of things that are difficult, we've all worked with DBAs in our past. I don't know if that was a good transition, but
DBAs are difficult.
In my previous company, when I was a child working, we worked with DBAs all the time, and it was all about process and who controlled what and everything. And then we've come a long way with, like, things should just be automated. If I think it should pop up and it should be automated and it should follow the life cycle and all that stuff. However, there's always going to be a need of somebody who has some level of control, right? And that role inside of enterprises especially is not going away. So, like, when we talk about DSM and where it fits in the platform and how it's all automated and integrated and out of the box, there is always that asterisk. Like, however, you can do these things manually. You do have these knobs and levers. You can do all of this stuff on your own. So what do we expose to those who really just want to roll up their sleeves and still have that level of control and visibility and manipulation of the data layer?
Yes, so this is a very important point, right? Like, there's expert, there's database expert, and they are here in the company. And we actually, when we are presenting DSM, right, we are always in the room with them, because it's, and it's sometimes, actually, it's interesting. In organization, DBAs are part of the IT organization, and sometimes they are part of the end user organization, right? And sometimes, based on where they are, they want different things. This is one, right? It's an important role. And what they react to that, and I will answer to your question a bit more precisely on what we do, but I think it's important to discuss the role. Actually, they are very happy about it, like a product like DSM, because the promise is not to replace the DBAs. The promise is to help to automate all the manual stuff. They are not very excited to receive a ticket and to provision a database. This is not exactly the exciting part, right? And when you think of moderner, like more modern application, you've got more tickets to create more database, right? And these, they don't really add any value, right? The value is really working with the business to make sure that the database are running well, are optimized, working on the schema, working on like really like the core foundation, not on like the plumbing or the tooling underneath, just to make sure, right? So actually, we're working with customers. This customer in Germany that presented actually at Explore Frankfurt. And I'm mentioning this customer because his role was actually Oracle DBAs. And now he's putting on his title Oracle and DSM DBAs, right? And why I'm saying that is because for me, it's exactly what we want, right? Is to give the tool to the IT organization or the stakeholder, to help them to do their job better, right? And now this DBA is not just Oracle, but he's managing actually Postgres, because they're using Oracle now for, a type of application, but they migrated from some Oracle to Postgres from some other application. But at the end of the day, he's managing everything. And he can do that because he's using DSM. So great question. The DBAs are here to stay, but they are like struggling, to be fully honest with you, because now it's not just Oracle DBAs. They want, the line of business wants more. They want other stuff that they might not have the experience with.
Need to get a certification like DSM certification, so people can put it on their resumes.
Yes, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that. I was thinking.
VCAP,
DSM.
DSM.
Yes, this is the goal.
Yeah. Well, I know there's one company that I'm very familiar with because they actually pay me that is actually using DSM in IT, and I actually read like a whole. There was this big public. I should leave a link to it in the show notes actually as well. But when they did a big upgrade with VCF, and they did this huge, basically VCF on Broadcom, and DSM was a big part of that story. It was really interesting. They actually even had like a polished sort of interview of the whole team that did it and everything. But for this episode, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the DSM side of that story. So what exactly is Broadcom IT doing as it pertains to DSM?
Yes, so I think, so thank you for showing. I think it's a great story because it summarizes a lot of what we have been talking about, right? So the story is, think of this as you've got a company, Broadcom, acquiring another company, VMware, right? And Broadcom, assessing VMware, is asking very simple question. How do you every R&D at VMware needs mostly Postgres and some MySQL. And the question was like, how do you manage it? Well, the answer was not so simple. Each business unit had a different team and different process on how to deliver database to their own business units, right? As well, we were VMware, but we were as well like, oh, why not? Let's deploy some databases, some Postgres in the public cloud because why not, right? We can do it. Maybe it's faster. Maybe it's easier. Yes, it's faster and easier to deploy, but then when you need to refactor to bring it to your application, no one is thinking of this cost. So when Broadcom came, the model of Broadcom is very simple. They are operating as a service provider. I'm trying not to make acronym. Service provider for their 26 division. What does it mean? It means they've got one IT organization that will deliver a private cloud with a set of services to serve their division. Right? Remember our discussion before? This is exactly what our customer wants to do, right? And they had some some requirements. So you mentioned the DBAs. Actually, Broadcom didn't have DBAs. They didn't have experts in Postgres. And they were not looking to get expertise in Postgres. They just want, as an IT organization, to deliver Postgres as a service for these new divisions called VMware, right? So they looked at tools and, they looked at different tools and they looked at what will work the best for VCF, and they selected DSM. So this is, very different from VMware, where my boss just passed, where we could do like very very dedicated custom things. They said no, we want off-the-shelf solution.
And it's worth mentioning, Michael, that anything that Broadcom or GTO uses, even from its own subsidiaries or companies or lines of business, whatever we are, is something that we have to. It's actually a bake-off. Like we have to do an RFP, or we have to respond to the RFP. We have to prove the solution, just like we were a third-party company, right?
Yes, totally. So I know, we are doing the podcast, but yes, they selected. It's not because it was VMware product.
Right.
No. It is like this was the best solution for them. And now it has been running for, 1 year and a half in production, serving like all R&D, right? So this is what we mean, like a couple of things. One, delivering a private cloud, one being in production. And the last thing is like, now it is operated by IT generalists. So you've got this IT organization, what's called GTO, and delivering this service for 1 year and a half, leveraging DSM for any Postgres operation, right? Postgres or MySQL operation. And they have been very happy with that. And when I talk to customers, this is exactly what they want to deliver. So when we say, what is the private cloud? Why do we need the DSM? This is why, because this picture is exactly what any modern company wants to deliver. They want to deliver a private cloud with this cloud experience, and they want a set of services to serve their end user. And the GTO, the Broadcom IT is interesting because as well, the division are totally doing self-service. And the expectation is GTO is delivering a database with an SLA. Then they give this database to the end user and they can do whatever they want. They can mess up with it. If we've got DBaaS to mess up with it, they don't care. The only thing they care is the SLA. Give me database in minutes. Like it's the same thing as for 20 years. Give me VM in minutes, right? Or give me a container cluster in minutes, right? This is what it means. So yes, this is a great example for me because, this is exactly when I talk to customer what they want to do, and it's very efficient.
Yeah. I love that, and I do think it's a great story. And anybody who knows Broadcom IT knows that they don't like to have a lot of different software programs. They're very limited. They want to have a very tight integration with just a small amount of stuff, and so they're very selective on stuff that they use. So yeah, honestly, it's a testament that just because VMware is part of Broadcom doesn't really mean much. It's literally like they are very, very selective. So yeah, just that in itself, in my opinion, is almost like worth mentioning that it's a great use case.
One of the highlights of this one is the saved 10 million for DBaaS annual cost pre-acquisition of VMware. So with the acquisition of VMware and with using DSM, it reduced GTO's legacy database costs by $10 million annually, and that's pretty significant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Well, Michael, you've been teasing this demo for a little bit now, so I think it might be time to actually to put on your demo hat and show us what exactly DSM looks like.
Yeah, so it's a quick demo, and I love this demo because I'm always doing it with customer because the talk track, what we discussed today, it's exactly the talk track with customers, like, hey, what it is, what are you solving? And I'm like showing slides, I'm presenting things like, oh, it's seamlessly integrated. We do all this stuff. Okay, great. Show it to me. Okay, so this is why. Let me show it to you. And it's a click-through demo, so it's very quick, but it hits the main point that for me, what it means to be like a DBaaS for VCF, right? So here, I say seamlessly integrated with VCF automation. So when we think about the private cloud, this is where the IT admin or the cloud admin will come. So if you look here at the top left, right, it's like cloud admin. So this is think about the IT organization. What does it mean? What is their role? Their role is to deliver the infrastructure and the service to their end user, right? Remember GTO. Okay, so they've got a one pane of glass. You mentioned integration in the past. My first project as intern, maybe in the past we had like 20 pane of glass, right? So here is where they will go and they can do all their operation. Now I mentioned, DSM is integrated with VCF. What does it mean? This is what it means at a very simple. It's like you've got a data services directly on your left navigation. Okay, it sounds very small, but what does it mean? It means now IT organization, like they are managing every other component of their VCF infrastructure, they can manage data services. Okay, so this is the welcome page. They can enable data services. So to do that, as of today, they need to enter few information. And I know you will ask, we still want to do even better and less, but today they can just enable it, and that's it. So what does it mean now to be like a DBaaS? It means two things. One, the IT organization, their job is to basically provide databases to the end user. And we introduce the concept of data services policy because what they want from an IT organization is governance, right? And I will tell you, let me go through the example to say a new policy, what it means governance. Governance is very simple. So I will put a name. It means what database, what version you can use and where. And this is what the data, Jad, you asked a question and I didn't really answer in detail, but this is what it means to give the control to the IT organization. It means that they will select, okay, for Postgres, all organizations, so they might have, remember, Broadcom has 26 divisions. So maybe, IT might say, I will just give Postgres to one division and not to the other one for whatever reason. But for this example, we say, hey, we give Postgres to every organization, for everyone. But we will not give them any version of Postgres. We'll just say, I will give you 15 and 16. 17 is too new, 14 is too old. For whatever reason, IT said, we would just give you 15 and 16. Okay? They click next. So now it's IT. And they can decide where these databases are running. For whatever reason, for cost reason, performance reason, they decide, okay, I will run these databases on this infrastructure. Remember, this is IT, right? This is decide. And as well, IT, when I talk about governance, can say, you know what? I want all the Postgres to be backed up. They are dev or production. I want them to be backed up. And this is where the backup will go. Okay? That's it. From an IT perspective, IT provider, that's it. This is what they need to know about Postgres.
How does the backup work? Does it back up? What's the level of granularity in your backing up? Are you saying how many copies? What level of retention? What is that?
Yes. So, and you will see that right now. But this is like, so IT can say, hey, this is what you need to do, or they can give the flexibility of the end user to decide. But basically, yes, the retention period is the most one. Did it answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. And so now, I showed you very quickly from an IT, they basically enable DSM, and they do this data services policy, which says which database, for this database, which version you can use, where you can use them, and, do I allow backup? Because backup has a cost, right? And you need to store it somewhere. So now now transition yourself, you are the end user. They don't care at all where things are running, okay? So they enter in their console, and it's Scott, we call him Scott, the end user, right? And he's a DevOps. He doesn't really care where things are running. He just wants to do his job. And what it means to be integrated, this is, again, what it means to be integrated. He's got all the tools that he needs here to do his day-to-day job. And now he's got this new superpower. He can use database directly part of this VCF automation console. By the way, when we say console, you can do it through API, but I think for the demo, it's a bit easier to do it through the UI. And now you will see the governance. So now he's part of the organization, and you can see he can only use Postgres 15 and 16. Why? Because this is what IT gives him access to. Okay, this is the first point. The second point is the topology. So at the start, you ask, hey, like this, the customer are doing it, or maybe it is solved. Yes and no, because actually it's very difficult to do clustering across. How do you do like HA? So what DSM is doing is basically you've got just 3 buttons, and you can choose your level of availability based on your topology. You can deploy your database in a single server, right? Which is a list HA. You can do a single zone HA, or you can do a multi-zone HA. And here you can see that the multi-zone HA is disabled because IT didn't give this option to the end user. Why? Because it is more expensive to do multi-zone HA. You need more hardware, and maybe for this use case, they didn't want to provide it. Okay, so here for the sake of the demo, we'll do single. Here you can see the same thing. IT just provided this infrastructure that just have one zone, IT could have given them maybe the choice, and they could choose here. Okay, they would use vSAN as a storage. They can choose their VM class. We've got 2 VM class, but if IT wants to give them more VM class, they can do that. The disk size, as you will expect, how to create a database. So you ask now for backup, right? So you can enable the backup, you can enable the backup location and the retention. So to your question, this is how they will do it here. Now, the important thing is you see the YAML file is being created here, because maybe the DevOps will never go in the UI, or maybe they will go one. They can copy paste the YAML files, they put them in their CI/CD pipeline, and then they can change the parameter in their YAML file, and DSM will automatically change whatever needs to be changed. So when we talked about at the start, right, being a tool, a database tool, this is what it means, how it evolved, right, to align to being like a DBaaS, part of the platform. Because now you are like seamlessly updating different components. This is exactly how you will do your Kubernetes component. And now you can manage your database the same way, right? And that's it. They can do some advanced setting. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Michael, sorry. I know because we were getting through this demo and there's just so much to cover, but it's worth mentioning that all of this is tied to VCF automations, tenancy structures, and the multi-tenancy. It's tied to the other policies. I mean, we kind of skipped over things like the t-shirt sizing, right, of the instances and all that stuff. So all of those things are done and packaged ahead and then just consumed from that point on. And it's just like this rubber stamping of databases. I mean, we can spend a whole day on just talking about those constructs, but I just wanted to make sure to call them out. I mean, it's an important piece.
Yes. And thank you for that, because it's like as well, this is what we call about consistency, right?
Yeah.
So now IT organizations, they do all these constructs, right? And these constructs are percolated across different services. They are the same one, they are the same concept, the same way to do things that are leveraged by DSM, right? So again, we had this question about the platform, and this is for me, actually, it's under the cover, but it's critical for IT to be like efficient and to have actually a great experience. It's like everything is consistent, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope this demo shows, when I say left navigation, it seems very simple, but now everything under the hood is connected to the concept. You can see the namespace actually here, where Scott is accessing all these resources, right? Another user might go to a different namespace with different, different policies. So this is the end of the demo, basically. And here you can create and use his database and, go from there.
And then, of course, with this done and your YAML done, right, we can incorporate this into pipelines. We can incorporate this into other release, internal and open source, worth mentioning, release tools and all that. So I think it's very powerful from that aspect.
I love that. I know we're getting close on time, Michael. I don't want to abuse your time. I will remind folks that are listening to this or watching it on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, then no need. But if you're not, the whole series is available on the VMware Cloud Foundation YouTube channel. So be sure to check out this and other episodes. But Michael, you're in product management. Maybe you can leave with telling us what we can expect in the next version. Is that something you feel comfortable doing, or I'm kidding?
If he wants to lose that title.
I knew. So look, I cannot talk feature roadmap, right? You should know that. But what I can say is we just released, but we released DSM 9.0.2. So, I will encourage everyone to check all the new stuff, and, keep your eyes open, right? We are here. I think, I teased a couple of stuff, but stay tuned. There's a lot of good stuff coming.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very good. Jad, I do want to let this guy go soon. Any closing thoughts or questions for Michael before we let him go?
No, I think this was great even for me. I admittedly haven't had a ton of hands-on with DSM, but it's something that I know a lot of our customers are asking for. And as we talk about platform, it's just it's a consistent part of that conversation. But yeah, I'll just thank you for taking the time and teaching us all.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Thanks so much for joining us. And as I said, stay tuned.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for those listening, by all means, be sure to check out the rest of the episode on vspeaking.com as well as the YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us, Mike.